All right, guys. So welcome to, I think this is our 17th episode of Canadian S&C Shop Talk. For those that are new to us today, I'll just do a quick introduction. My name is Sam Miles-Frayne, head S&C coach at York University. You've got Jordan Foley here, who works with special forces and all sorts of different things. And then Trevor Cottrell, professor, exercise physiologist, strength professor at Sheridan College. So typically we do a bit of 15 minutes of an update of the profession, kind of what's going on here and there from NSCA, youth sport, CSCA, things like that. And then we get into our guest speakers, which we're really excited about. I don't know Andrew well at all, but Jamie and I have grown a relationship over the last couple of years for sure. And he's definitely hooked us up here at York, which is exciting. And I thank him for sure. So we'll pass it over to Trev to start with some updates on that end, and then Jordan, back to myself.
Yeah, so most of you know that Jordan, Sam, and I are all involved with the Canadian Strength Conditioning Association, either on the board or on committees. So we usually give a Canadian Strength Conditioning Association update. The new board seems to be functioning well. We've already had 3 meetings in this year, starting January, and we've got full committees populated, and some initiatives are to get going. The big news is save the date, May 1st. Block that date right now. It'll be our first ever cross-country Canadian Strength Conditioning Association online conference. So we have a conference for the entire country. We have representatives from everywhere. We have a few students, but usually most of it's kind of names you would recognize. And the idea is to create a platform for people to recognize who each other who are the players in the industry, who's doing what, and just give a chance for everybody to see, kind of in this environment where you can see some of the names and the faces you don't get to see very often and get caught up with them, and ask questions and state of the industry and that kind of thing. So May 1st, it'll run from approximately, I believe it's at 11 a.m. Eastern time till about 6 p.m. Eastern time to accommodate those folks way out on the Pacific coast. So that's kind of the big news. Little news, the last newsletter just came out. Make sure you check. There's some interesting articles on there on high school strength conditioning and a few others. And other events moving forward, we're kind of trying to work on, really establishing outreach and collaboration across the country when it comes to things like university and education, high school and youth strength conditioning initiatives, and then just trying to figure out exactly what are we trying to achieve for strength coaches in Canada to serve as an association for Canadians. Are we just going to be a mirror of NSCA? Absolutely not. How do we separate ourselves from the others? Anyway, that's my update. On to you, Jordan, I guess, NSCA.
Yep, NSCA update, not a ton going on right now. They're still dragging their heels a little bit on this certified performance and sports scientist certification with no firm date on when the first exam is going to be, as far as I know. I checked last week, but we're looking forward to that. 2 things from them. Quebec will be having an online provincial clinic the last week of March. The date is not yet finalized. It'll only be like 4 to 6 speakers, pretty brief. So stay tuned for that. We'll make sure that we update when the date is finalized and with a link. And there is going to be a Great Lakes Regional virtual as well, with no steady date, but likely into June. That will be in place of getting the normal Ontario place kind of around that time each year. That's it from the NSCA.
With respect to youth sports, a lot of things are pretty status quo as well. From most places, whatever they were stuck in November continue to be stuck in now. In terms of Ontario, some places have started to lift earlier than others, as you guys saw from the announcement last week. A lot of us are kind of waiting with bated breath to see if we go into red, or most outside of Toronto will be going into orange or red. So that's positive news for those programs getting up and running. As some of you guys might have seen, or this might be new to you, there was a university, Laurentian, that has filed for bankruptcy, and they do think that there are some schools that might follow. How that's going to affect youth sport or sports at some of those institutions is yet to be seen, but I think we can definitely safely say there's going to be a massive impact, especially if there is a pushback in terms of fall sports running. The OUA is supposed to be putting out some sort of an announcement at the end of February in terms of the decision of what that's going to look like for the fall in terms of scheduling of A, B, and C options for different scheduling platforms. So again, we're all just kind of waiting to kind of see what happens and just praying that we can at least get back in person to see our athletes for a bit of time before the spring hits.
Sam, just quickly on that, 2 questions. One, how has this lockdown been compared to the first lockdown as far as participation of athletes? Has it gotten better or worse?
So I can speak from our perspective. I would say it's probably gotten worse, mainly for those athletes that it's still lingering in their minds, so they don't know if they're going to have a fall season. Winter sports are a little bit still engaged based on the fact that it's most likely they'll have something. But with fall sports already having that canceled season and not really knowing what's going to happen this coming fall, a lot of them have kind of taken a bit of a hiatus to do their own thing, focus a bit on school. I will say from an academic standpoint, and I can only speak from York, is that our athletes have been extremely successful above and beyond than they have been at any other year from this year. So I guess that's a positive in terms of pulling up your grades so that you can focus on sport in the fall and winter, where it maybe might go back down again. But that's been really cool to see that portion. But it's been hard. Athletes have been hit hard, and the expectation on Zoom and then doing more Zoom or having to, be accountable is hard. It's been a long, expansive time. So.
And then if you were a betting person, how much money would you put down on the fact that youth sports will run in the fall?
Yeah.
I'd bet 20, but I wouldn't bet 50.
I'd bet 20 on it.
Yeah.
I might go 50. I'll go 50. I'm feeling rich.
You make a lot more money than I do, man. You're like PhD prof, so same thing.
I got a pay cut.
Yeah,
Jeez,
there's lots of different options up in the air, right? To try and give something, whether this time around, I know they had attempted in the winter to try and give people the autonomy to do like intercity competition. And, with the way things are going, that might be more of an option than it ever was this winter. But I'm obviously trying to stay hopeful, but it's the reality. There's lots of realities that we need to take into account, and it'll be modified for sure. It's not going to look the same at all, but hopefully we can at least get a couple games that are inter to give a little bit of competition. But it's it's gonna be tough.
What I want to know is if your university goes bankrupt and you owe them money, you only owe 30 cents on the dollar to the creditor. That's what I want to know. Are you done the youth sport update, Sam?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, we'll get into our plan or specific content for the day, and we got a couple equipment distributors, I guess, on here. Jamie Crane from Dotmar Fitness and Andrew Luke from Afterburn Fitness. Andrew actually replied saying that he only got in the equipment game recently. It's a lie. I bought a used power rack off Andrew's gym like 5 years ago. I got a Rogue R3 rack. Everyone here hate me. I got a Rogue R3 rack for $575. Take it. With the
$575.
Yeah, man. It's a steal. It's a steal.
What's it worth now? 10 grand?
Oh, geez. $2,000 probably my area.
Did you have like 50 of them at the back of the truck, Andrew? Like what happened there?
No, when was that, Jordan? That was a long time ago.
Oh, geez, man. That was like 2016 probably.
Oh, wow.
At least, yeah. I showed up to your gym and I don't know. It was like I forget. It was in Scarborough or something like that. And yeah, you weren't there. It was like a cleaning guy or something like that. And it's like, yeah. Anyways, steal of a deal for these days. That's for sure. Still got it. So what we're going to do is start out. Trev's going to do a little bit of a short intro for Jamie, and then Jamie will finish up the intro for himself. And I'll do a short intro for Andrew with him doing the majority of it. And we'll start off with the line of questioning. I'll prompt you guys, but we can be pretty free flowing. We'll have essentially Jamie start out with it just because he's been in the biz a little bit longer, and we'll go from there. So over to Trev.
Yeah. So I don't know about you guys, but I'd be interested in the chat. Throw in the chat how many people have tried to buy equipment in the last 8 months. Anyone? It's been quite an event. And I look back on all the equipment I handed down to Jordan and to Sam and to here, just take this out of my basement. And I remember when I moved to Texas, I had a yard sale and I literally gave away probably 300 pounds of weights, and I gave away a leg press and a hammer jammer. And now I'm looking back with tears flowing down my eyes because I could have retired if I would have hung onto those and sold them now. But Jamie, nobody knows this better than Jamie. So Jamie, I don't know if you guys know much about Jamie, but Jamie, he's older than he looks. He's pretty jacked. It's probably the vegetarian diet he's on. But when I managed a fitness club in 1993, we went to Dotmar Fitness, which was under a different owner. Who was the owner back then?
Vern was the original owner.
Vern, but you worked for them then.
Yes.
And I met Jamie at some point during that time. So that was counted out 28 years ago.
Yeah.
And Dotmar Fitness, how many fitness companies like yours have survived for over 30 years in this province?
Well, I mean, we're coming on 40 years now as a company. I don't know if there's a lot of specialty suppliers that are still around. You know, you've obviously got the odd manufacturer like your Yorks, but even most of the manufacturers are gone by that point.
Yeah. So Jamie and I, I knew of them then when I started at Sheridan, we had to build our facility at Sheridan, went to Dotmar. And at the time, Dotmar, they didn't have a lot of big brand names. It was kind of like they didn't carry Life Fitness, but they had some others. So, but what I liked about Jamie's facility, if you ever get a chance, you got to go there if things ever reopen. I don't know what it looks like now, Jamie, but he had a warehouse. And this warehouse was stacked floor to ceiling with strength equipment that you've just gotten as trade-ins, or someone said we don't need it anymore. And I used to go there and literally climb through this jungle gym of equipment trying to figure out what I wanted. And I'd throw it on the back of my truck, here's some dollars. And so that was always, it was like, imagine a flea market for strength nuts, right? It was pretty cool. So anyway, I started going back to him about 12, 14 years ago when we did our upgrades at Sheridan. He was a powerlifter for many years, but then Jamie saw the light at the age of 52 and he decided to convert to Olympic weightlifting. So Jamie used to come over to my basement and I taught the old man how to actually reach over his head, which I don't think he had done up to that point.
Nope.
And now Jamie is now a national record holder in Olympic weightlifting in the men's 55-year-old class. What is it, 96 you're in?
50 to 55, yeah.
50 to 55, 96 kilo class, or are you 89? I can't remember now. Anyway,
89.
so he distributes Alico now, which is also smart because Alico, all the vendors in Ontario or in Canada were garbage up to now. So now you can get at least Alico from him. And you sell, what do you do? Star Trek now? You do
a lot of the big names like, Alico, Star Trek, Stairmaster, Schwinn, Stages Indoor Bikes, Nautilus, Trueform Runners, a lot of different brands like that. Like we've got some of the basic, and of course, one of our biggest in the strength and conditioning world is Atlantis. So
you do Atlantis now, right?
Yeah.
And then so Jamie, Jordan's going to take over and but I just want to introduce you quickly to Andrew. So Andrew's at Afterburn Fitness. Andrew, if you've never heard of him, is a world level dragon boat champion. So he lives what he breathes, and he has his own, it's kind of like I don't know, should I say it, Andrew, CrossFit-ish, box type-ish gym. That's more of a powerlifting, athlete-centric type gym, and a lot of fitness nuts, like that kind of flavor. Am I right?
Yeah, all of those things maybe.
Yeah. And but now all of a sudden I've been reaching out to a few different people that I wanted to get on this call who were from his kind of background, because all kinds of people have just suddenly gotten in this equipment market. So I just bought a few things off Andrew, and they're reasonable prices. I like the prices. So Andrew's going to come back and tell us his story probably after Jamie starts his. So enough of me chatting. Jordan, it's your show. Go.
I should have known better and we'll let you do that actually. Okay, we're actually going to get to the content here for everyone, aside from Trev. So Jamie, to start out with you, pre-COVID, when making a big strength order, so we're talking in the 5,000+, 10,000 range where you're getting freight shipping, that type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
What were the general costs and lead times you would expect for base strength equipment? So I want to set up a home gym. Let's say I want like a set of dumbbells or power blocks, an assortment of kettlebells, some mats for the floor, a power rack, a bar, a specialty bars, and 500 pounds of plates for this, $5 to $8 grand. And I'd say, hey, Jamie, I want this stuff. What would I be expecting as far as costs and lead time?
Well, Yeah, first of all that stuff would have been stock. So you wanted it, you could have come picked it up the same day, or we could have delivered within the week and installed within the week. You know, looking at Olympic plates, pre-COVID, 99 cents a pound. Dumbbells, $1.19 a pound. You know, an Olympic bar, $150. A rack, you know, even a good rack, $1,000. So, I mean, you know, $5,000 to $8,000, you're getting yourself a really good setup. You know, a commercial bench, $500, $600.
What about, let's say I want to set up a 2,000 to 3,000 square foot performance facility that a lot of people on here be familiar with 4 platforms, and I'm spending about 50K. And I said, hey, Jamie, I want to design this with you and get the dynamic fitness stuff and some stock black bumpers and like decent stuff. But what would I be looking at as far as lead times on that?
So
Pre-COVID?
it depends a little on the equipment. If you were going for something a little bit more specialized, again, in that commercial strength and conditioning markets, your Atlantis, your Dynamic, Legend, you know, one of those names, general lead times would have been 8 weeks, 6 weeks, in that range. So still realistic. And that's for the equipment, racks, platforms, that type of thing. And that's all customized as well. You know, you get your logos on it, you get your colors on it. 6 to 8 weeks would have been well within the norm.
Isn't that funny? Like, you're waiting longer for a painted piece of concrete now, and paying more.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a decent start, and thanks, Jamie, especially because I know that a lot of people on here, their experience with this might be limited or just in those big buys. So they're not like, now it's I've done this before personally, but it's funny to think that you could just pull up to a store. Let's say you got a pickup truck, you pull up to a store and you go home with a home gym.
Exactly.
I mean, you could get a Caterpillar backhoe easier now, right? Like, I just made that up, but so during COVID, Jamie, how has that changed? Let's go with those examples. Like, I want my powerlifting focused home gym, and then I also want my 4 to 6 rack performance facility. How have those changed as far as costs, lead times, and availability?
So most of our commercial customized stuff now, again, you go back to your, you know, some of your big 3, your Atlantis, Dynamic, Legend, everything now is 10 to 12 weeks. So, you know, we're almost double. And then of course, you have shipping delays on top of that, cross-border delays. So that can all add up as well. And that's not even including the increase in costs we've seen, which seem to be monthly.
No kidding. I actually saw, I think it was Legend out of the US. I'm in this home gym community group on Facebook, and it's like pretty decent. It's done by home gym, garage gym reviews maybe. And Legend sent out to everybody that had been on their website and on their mailing list, like before February, and said, if you're going to order something, order it now, because we're jacking our prices up by 40%.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, you know, obviously due to the prices of steel and whatnot. So right now, we'll jump in with you, Andrew. So you had been sent a different line of questions, and you gave it some pretty good responses. And I wanted to address those kind of first 3 that you had answered. You know, when did you get into this? Why did you choose to get into this? What portion of your overall business was it? What portion of your overall business is it now? And just some like general thoughts on the whole situation.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe I'll just preface with, I guess, the type of gym that we are, I guess, is we've always been kind of a niche paddle gym. So we started off with actually drag boat training, and we have a paddle tank in our facility, and that allows drag boat athletes to actually paddle indoors in the winter. So it's the only one of its kind specific to our sport. So that's where we actually started from. And then we actually were fortunate enough to have some really good powerlifting athletes that have competed internationally. And they're pretty good because they're not very picky. So they just need a good bar and lots of weights. So we had that and racks, and then that's how we kind of grew into powerlifting. So that's where we've come from. And then since we deal with teams and we deal with like with more general members, it was hard for us to kind of switch like other gyms into virtual, because we didn't actually, all the coaches that come in are more contract and they have their own team. So they're more renting the facility. That's kind of our specialty, is to provide a good facility, a good community, and then the coaches kind of do their thing. So it was hard for us to switch there. So moving into more looking for ways that we can use this empty space for almost 8 months of the year where it was not being used at all was as we were kind of looking around. And through our experience looking for actually electrostatic sprayers and air purifiers in China, we're trying to source those in to try and reduce the risk to our members of getting the virus. We actually bumped into equipment stuff that we found abroad. So that's how we found kind of this market. We looked at the prices and we looked at what they were selling for during the pandemic, and we were like, wow, this is some pretty crazy stuff. So we were also borrowing equipment to our members that they can use during the pandemic. And we obviously didn't have enough. So we're looking for ways to be able to supply our community and our friends with equipment. So that's how we got into it. Before the pandemic, we had probably 0% from equipment sales. And now it's all, because we don't have any other business while we're closed. So we're very minimal. Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
yeah.
Andrew, the version of the gym that I bought my rack from, I don't know, I'm going to try to cover up what Trev said. Like, I would describe it as kind of like a barbell club or a performance facility without like a turf area. It didn't have like a huge open area, but there was like a million racks, all kinds of plates and bars, like a couple competition platforms. Andrew does have some legit lifters there. And it was like the thing that actually took my eye the most was that it was really nice up front. It was nice in the back too. Like when I went into the lobby, I was kind of like, yeah, this is not the kind of place I'm buying a rack from for $575. Like, it was really nice. So it seemed like pretty nice, almost like boutique-y barbell club is the way I would describe it. Like, it was sweet. It was huge. So next we'll move into what types of equipment were most affected. Starting with you, Jamie, because you kind of have that knowledge of things from before, and then Andrew, I got a slight twist on it for you.
Sorry, unmuted. Sorry, Jordan, could you say that again?
Yeah. Jamie's busy doing business, probably making bucks. I said, what type of equipment has been most affected now versus before?
I would say a lot of the smaller items, your dumbbells, your plates, that type of thing. Number one is, when this hit and everything shut down, everybody needed a pair of 20-pound dumbbells for home. Everybody needed a bar and a little assortment of plates for home. And the CrossFitters and Olympic lifters, we all needed our bumper plates for the garage gyms. So things like that went really quick and were very, very hard to get in. I mean, we're in kind of a good position just with our buying power and our history, is that we tend to get priority shipments. And I just posted in the chat there that my team is unloading a container right now. We just got 38,000 pounds free weights in that's being sorted. And this stuff is going to go within a week. It'll be gone.
Awesome. I'm gonna jump over to Andrew here. And one of the things that I think is interesting for us to all think about is the role of a gym, the role of a strength and conditioning coach during this time. I was on an advisory committee. Sam was on there as well for Sheridan College, and we talked about how the industry has changed during this time. And everyone said, yeah, it's changed because now it's virtual. And what I had said was, it's changed in that we need to adapt. It just so happens to be virtual right now. So Andrew's a guy that's like taking this to heart of like, how do I service my members? And obviously his situation steered him towards equipment versus programming. But the answer is not team builder. The answer is like, what do your clients need and how do you get it from them? So this guy decides to import equipment. So that's specifically the line that we want to, I want to ask you about, Andrew, since you're new to it. How have you managed the the importing and the international shipping. And then also like, I'm scared to death of like ordering these like things from Alibaba or whatever. I'm like, what's going to show up here? So how have you navigated that as a, I'm assuming a small company? Like, I don't think you guys are like this franchise billion-dollar company. So how have you navigated that while keeping an eye on obviously the risk?
Yeah, I think going in a bit slowly, like we actually started up in August. So going in slowly, setting expectations with clients was the biggest thing. So we only started off with our immediate community. We told them by email that this is our first batch. We haven't seen the equipment yet. So once it comes in, then so all setting expectations was a big part of it. And then once it got in, then we were able to take a look at the equipment and then being able to distribute it appropriately. But I think setting expectations, setting an appropriate price for the uncertainty was a big part. And a lot of our customers, and even we were really impressed with the quality of the equipment, and we were able to expand there and then broaden out our scope. And that's how I bumped into to Trevor as well. Is just we said we're happy with the quality, our experience has been good, and now we can open it up to other people. And that way it doesn't risk our reputation as a good gym. So managing expectation, I think, was a huge part.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. Actually, I flipped through your calendar. How would you describe the quality of your racks versus something that's out there on the market that we'd all be familiar with? Like, is it Rogue type quality, like Rogue Dynamic Fitness, like that Crossbox Northern Lights stuff? Is it a little bit more like commercial?
Yeah, I would say it's more, I think the last one that you mentioned was like light commercial, and that's more where it is. Our brand is called Afterburn Basics. So it's pretty much just for this market, just what you need as a home fitness person to be able to get through the pandemic and keep going. So but we did want to test quality. So we actually have a full squat rack, and we dumped 855 pounds on it onto the safeties to see what would happen to it. And it's 12 gauge steel, 2.875 millimeters thick, and it survived. So it's cheap, $600, but it also can handle Canadian squat record weights on it and being used for another day. So I think price and quality is kind of there for it, for the stuff that we have.
Cool. Did you turn around and sell that barbell to somebody for $500? Because you probably could have.
No, it's warped. It's an again faster bar, but I think any bar would take the same bar warping on it.
Still could have sold it. What are the biggest bottlenecks that you guys faced in your supply chain, Andrew?
Biggest, I think everything. We've only had 3 batches come through, and we had the place where we have them imported or manufactured had the lockdown in China that you guys probably heard about just recently. So one of our batches is delayed from that. There was pandemic, or there was an outbreak on one of the cruise ships, or on the ships that transported it. So then our stuff had to be moved to another one. And I think just overall, like, things are just a bit slow. So those are the main areas. I think the manufacturing side, and also the shipping containers too. There's a huge shortage on shipping containers. Everything's going from China to everywhere else, but nothing's coming back. So there's actually a big premium on the shipping containers and being able to source them. So those are the main bottlenecks right now.
Jordan,
What about, jump in, Trev.
So tell me, who are you talking to? Do you have a broker, distributor, and then that's a middle person between the manufacturer and you? Who are you actually ordering from?
We're dealing directly with the manufacturer.
Okay.
And then we have a shipper forwarder, or originally they hooked us up with a shipper and forwarder. So, and then now we're dealing with that person directly to get the stuff here.
Okay, so you order from the manufacturer. They give it to that shipper, and then you communicate with the shipper about your cargo getting shifted, and they're pretty good at it. You can actually get responses, and the logistics are there.
Yeah. Originally it was a bit more difficult because we're dealing with the manufacturer to get it shipped over, but now we have a shipper that's based in Toronto, and they have an office in China, so it's a bit easier to work with them.
Yeah, Jordan, you should ask Jamie the stories about the shipping containers. He's got some interesting stories, I think.
Well, we can do that next. First, Jamie, like what Andrew's talked about the general bottlenecks, and obviously we've all seen them and probably experienced them with anything that we're trying to order, whether it's Amazon, whatever. How have they been different for you? Like, is there a stage now that's more onerous than previous for you, where you see more hiccups?
You mean as far as just getting the equipment in?
Yeah, just getting equipment in, or even getting it in the hands of your customers. Like, what's been the most difficult step, and how has that bottleneck been different than previous?
Well, it's still getting the equipment in, and the fact that there's really no information is surprisingly, everybody, manufacturers, the shippers, the distributors, everybody is so overwhelmed that it's just basically you put your orders in and don't bother me. You'll get it when you get it, because if you bother me, you're going to the back of the line. So it's that is the biggest challenge, is just information.
I
It's
think
like
that's been an
gangster
interesting.
stuff.
Well,
That's
it
awful.
is. You know
Yeah.
what? Like where I am, even just retail stuff, but I found Amazon is like that too, because I don't live in the GTA. I wonder when like the forgiveness from the consumers is going away for that type of stuff. Because I'll go to Home Depot and they'll be like, "Oh man, COVID," and I'm like, "You can't shovel the parking lot? Like that is
Yeah.
not like grab a shovel, man." Like, and people just hitting the easy button. If this is the way we're going to move forward, like people still want value for their dollar, right? It's kind of funny, but this is like the one industry, well, not the one industry, a lot of industries, home improvement, different stuff, like they just kind of have us right now by the necks. What's the shipping container story?
Well, I was just, I talked to Trevor before, and I get asked all the time where the cost increase actually coming from. And the biggest cost increase is coming from shipping. We used to be able to bring a container over, like a 40-foot container over, for $4,000 or $5,000. It's now minimum $18,000.
Wow.
And that's even if you can find a container and find a ship to get it loaded on. And I mean, I've got people that are basically saying to me, "Here, give me an extra $5,000 and I'll make sure you get your container on the ship. If not, it's just going to sit there until we find space."
Oh,
That's
man.
just the way of the world these days. So
I have a question. So like, does that mean that, a lot of people look at the fitness depots and think you guys are raking it in because you're charging so much more than you used to, but is that the case, or is it because it's all going to shipping now?
there's no doubt, and there's no doubt there's still places out there that are using this to their advantage. There's no doubt gouging is still going on. I mean, everybody can make those decisions on their own, but there's price increases everywhere. So they're definitely legitimate. You've got steel prices increasing, you've got shipping costs gone through the roof, you've got labor costs going up. And you've got a lot of the suppliers that used to bring stuff over from Asia are now turning around because of the issues getting stuff in, and they're trying to make stuff here. Rogue is a perfect example. Rogue is now trying to make plates in the US, and I'm not sure if you've noticed, but their costs, they put out a big price increase. They stopped their free shipping. They're trying somehow to keep feeding their supply chain, and the costs will just keep climbing.
Yeah, like who would have thought like 2 years ago, if you were to say like someone like Rogue would decide to make plates in the US, you'd be like, why would they do that? Like,
Yeah.
aside from Americans loving American made stuff, but it's like not a sound financial decision. I'll tie this into like our next question is, like, what have you guys seen as far as change in wholesale costs? And Jamie, for you, it could be pre to now, and Andrew, maybe even from like your first, second, third shipment. And then how are those things being kind of passed down to the customer, and what are you seeing across the industry as well? So if we're paying, 150% now of what we were before, where are those costs coming from? And are you guys still finding a way to actually keep your margin?
Do you want to go ahead, Andrew, first, or?
Sure. Yeah, I have. I don't have as much experience in terms of the trajectory or the change, because we started up just in August actually. So the prices mainly is just from the shipping containers and the availability of it, I would say, and shipping in general, like Jamie had mentioned. But aside from us, like, it's a bit easier for us because it's a one-man shop. So it's, in terms of labor, it's just me. And so I just bring in the stuff. I get some buddies to help unload the container. And our overhead is what has already been, is already a sunk cost. because we have to operate the facility, we still have to pay our landlords. The expenses are already there and they're fixed. So even if the gym does open, the costs to store it, like we're going to store it between racks, or we're going to shelf the equipment wherever we can, but we're going to hold not very much inventory once the gym reopens. So just a small amount. And so cost-wise, it's not that big as an amount for us. I think if that answers the question, I think. And in terms of passing down to customers, we have increased our prices a bit, but still very, very, I would say pre-pandemic, or still pretty low.
But your guys are pretty reasonable. And how about you, Jamie?
Traditionally, free weights, dumbbells, plates, bars were extremely low margin items. At low volume, they were almost all loss leader. So it wasn't until you were selling, a larger quantity was there actually a little bit of margin in it. So for us, we've had to, because we're normally commercial suppliers. We did very little with the public, and for us, our business is kind of flip-flop now, obviously. So we're just trying to keep our margins steady as the prices go up.
Jamie, how much have you guys had to navigate some of those commercial contracts or commercial commitments? So, I contact you and say, I want to buy $100,000 worth of stuff. And you're like, are you facing a decision then of, you know what, I'd rather just sell it as it comes in and just sell it right out because I don't need the big contracts?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's something we deal with weekly, both from the supplier side and us selling to customers. We have some of our suppliers that have basically said, well, we can't allocate you this stuff that you've been selling for us for 15 years because now I can get more money selling it online. And they've opened their own online channels to sell direct, which when this ends, the people that got them where they are going to be forgotten. So for us, we always try to remember, again, being commercial suppliers, is our commercial clients are the ones who we've always depended on and had great relationships with, and we don't want to risk those relationships. So, I'd rather sell to a customer who I have a great relationship with, whether, Sam at York or I see a number of other people here that I know. I'll take it out of the home gym hands and I'll give it to the people who we've always had the relationships with, who have always been great customers. That's where my loyalty lies from our business.
That's great, man. I can speak to that too. Like whenever I've asked Jamie, it's always like straight up. And if you're in a situation where it's like your organization is grinding you on cost, I'll tell you that too. It's like, yeah, I can't do it. And you're like, if he says he can't, it means it's not possible, which is always appreciated in a kind of consumer-based customer industry. We'll slide on to a question from Steve here in the chat. Probably more Jamie, but maybe through some of your runs, Andrew, I'm not sure. Has this demand changed the quality at all? Have you seen the quality in any of the, I know that you have these reputable brands, but what have you seen across the industry, Jamie, as far as quality going down potentially to meet the demand?
Yeah, I saw that question come up, and that's a great question. Definitely, we have seen some drop in quality. Not in all things, but I'll give you a prime example, and this is even with brand name products, is that rubber hex dumbbell. And again, we're dealing with brand names. They're trying to manufacture these rubber hex dumbbells so quickly. They're taking them out of the molds before they set. And what happens is down the road, you start to get bubbling and chemical reactions within the rubber that almost make it look like it's melting. So we've definitely had some issues like that. And Alico, for example, hasn't been able to make an IPF approved plate since last April because they got into a big fight over quality control with their manufacturer. And so they had to go out, source a new manufacturer, and just started coming out, 8 months later with plates again.
Should have marketed them collector's items, Alico non-IPF collector's items, COVID plates, right? Everyone would have to get a new set. Andrew, did you see any change, or have your shipments just been like same quality from the factory? I know it's a short period of time, but
Yeah, it's pretty it's a pretty short period of time for us to be able to tell. But I think the manufacturer, so for example, adjustable dumbbells are the hottest thing out there, I would say. And we priced them pretty low. Like ours are selling for like 500 right now for a set of two 90-pound adjustable dumbbells. And but so the expectation was there that we weren't sure what the quality was, but thought it was okay. But they were 5 pounds light. So we were like, how could you screw up the weight? And there's like, oh, well, that's the tolerance. And I was like, how could that be the tolerance? 5 pounds on a 90? That's quite a lot. But our customers were happy because the weight per pound was just still crazy. Was just really good. So they're pretty happy, and we had the expectation. But they said that's the tolerance. And I said, okay, well, I guess it's still a really good price. So we're still selling it, but we're still giving the heads up to our customers that, this is what it is, and we can't really change it. We know what the quality is. It works, and it's, pretty durable. So that's what you can get. But that's just one example. We had some like collars on some of or the sleeves on some of our bumpers were a bit bent, but again, the price is like really cheap. So we just find them, and then, we exchange it happily for our customers that find it. So yeah.
they're just marketing it out, but like all those push-ups you did before you got the dumbbells made you stronger. So your dumbbell bench press is 5 pounds heavier. How have you guys seen the online price gouging affecting the market, whether it be from other retailers or what's going on kind of on Marketplace and Kijiji?
For us, I hate to say it, but it just makes us look better. When people, we've got our, rubber hex dumbbells. I was saying the order that's coming in, unfortunately, probably is going to have to inch up a little bit in price, but we've been $2 a pound. You're seeing people sell no-name used dumbbells for $3 and $4 a pound. So when we're selling new for $2 a pound, people love it.
Or made of cement. I've seen on Kijiji cement dumbbells and barbells for $2 to $3 a pound. Like it's like homemade.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Actually, does it? That's an interesting one that I've seen. Like I've seen people up in my area selling like wooden squat racks, and like some of them, I'd be like, yeah, maybe I'd use that. And I had one guy on there. He had 400 pounds loaded on, like a bunch of mix match standard plates, and the J hooks were coat hooks. Like the double coat hook that you had, like that you hung your coat on when you were in kindergarten. And it was like, yeah, good to go, 410 pounds. And I don't know, maybe I'm a bad person, but I want to see these COVID weightlifting fails of people just mangled from something that they bought, like pile of concrete weights and a 2x4 on top of them. Just natural selection at its best. It's just crazy. I don't know, like it would come down to, sure, to be tough to anchor it to someone like in a civil lawsuit, but the liability of some of this, that people are selling stuff. If you're a manufacturer, obviously you're liable, but I'm not sure how that is on the secondhand market. We do have a few questions from the chat here. Trev was asking about, like, have you guys seen anything as far as warranty changes, or people honoring, not honoring those? Like our brand new things kind of as is now, like in the case with the bubbled up dumbbells or whatever, Jamie. And then also, what about the raw material qualities? What are we seeing as far as those?
We haven't had any issues with warranty support. Again, the brands that we're dealing with are all long-standing, reputable brands. So yeah, we haven't had any issues that way. As far as raw materials, I mean, we hear all the time about the steel shortage and the increases in prices that are still coming. But I don't have any firsthand knowledge on that.
Okay, sounds good.
How about Andrew? Andrew, like your stuff's pretty much get what you get, right? I'm assuming you're not going to be honoring warranties a year from now or something like that. That's your
well, as a gym, I think we're not going in with that attitude, I think, is because we are going to be here for a while, I think, as a gym. So we don't want our reputation to be, impacted by, somebody saying, oh, he sold me this adjustable dumbbell and it's broke or something. So we're quite conscious of making sure that our reputation is maintained as a good facility. So we've been keeping reserves, especially, I would say, because our brand is basics, we're keeping with things that are fairly simple. Like it's a bumper, it's a bar, it's a rack, full steel. So there's not much that can go wrong with it. It's more initial quality. So except for the adjustable dumbbells, in which case, yeah, we're holding reserves for that. And there have been some issues, but we've taken out the reserves and we've exchanged it, even if it's past the 30 days that that we have on our site. So yeah, so pretty basic equipment. So not too much can go wrong.
Jamie, what new players have you seen come into this? Obviously, there's people like Andrew, whether they're attached to a pre-existing fitness business that have diversified. There's other people that have just popped it up. Jamie to start, and then Andrew, I got a follow up for you.
Yeah, I mean, we do see a lot of the places, whether it be training facilities, spin studios, CrossFit gyms, that the closure, obviously it's hurting a lot of people and trying to make ends meet. For a while there, we were getting 3 to 4 inquiries a week to see if we could start supplying them with equipment to resell. Unfortunately, we can't get enough to fill our orders, so we haven't been able to do that. But yeah, just tons of new players we're seeing all across the internet.
Andrew, for you guys, do you still plan to do this as a diversification moving forward? I know that we don't even know what that looks like and when that is and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I think we'll continue to do it just to assist. It just provides another avenue to be able to connect with our community. So we have about like, let's say 80 teams that come through, so like 1,600 athletes that come through for paddling alone. So that's a great way to, if they want to set up a home gym, then we can help equip them. So it's just another way to connect with them and increase our brand awareness across the place that we operate in. So I think we'll continue, but very small reserve stock.
It's a good support service too, right? Like when you think about it, people that are busy professionals, they're kind of in and out. If they already trust you, it's not too dissimilar to the ones that buy a foam roller from the front lobby either, right? It's just expanding upon supporting them when they're not with you. And they're like, hey, I trust Afterburn, I trust Andrew. And I'm thinking about like 2 days a week, I can't get to the gym. He said this is all right. And he already has my banking information. Let's do it. And I'm big on that personally. Like if it's someone that I trust and I don't have to think about it and do any research, it's like, yeah, okay, I'll just do it. They'll just do it here, one-stop shop, right? Jamie, are you guys still doing any customizations or fabrications with some of those local partnerships that you have, or is it just not worth it right now?
No, it's not worth it. We actually stopped doing a lot of that a little while ago, and we decided to focus solely on brand names, some of the more well-known, proven brand names. So yeah, and some of the customization these days, it was just that the costs were getting to almost the same as us ordering from a factory directly. So just didn't make sense.
Yeah, I actually have a fabricated piece from Dotmar that I bought used. I told Jamie that's already, he probably forgot, but I got it for $120, an adjustable bench that Sam has in her house actually, and adjustable squat stands that can go all the way down to bench press or squat with safeties, and it's like 7-gauge steel, a steel plate on the ground so that it doesn't tip around. Like each squat stand, they're independent, weighs like 75 pounds. I loaned them to my buddy here that I work with, and I bought it for $120 off some dudes out of their parents' garage in Mississauga. That's like 4 or 5 years ago. And I can remember I was chatting them up on Kijiji, and like I'm ruthless on Kijiji. I was just like lowballing people. I was like, I don't know, man, it's not brand name. Like, I don't know what it is. It's probably garbage. And he was like, well, hold on, let me take another look. He's like, yeah, it's not brand name. The only thing on here is this Dotmar fitness sticker. And I was like, yeah, man, like unreliable, like no brand name equipment. All I can give you is 120. He was asking $200, and he was like, okay. So I drove there and picked it up, and it's like bomb proof. Like it'll survive the pandemic and the ice age and all that kind of stuff.
It's guys like you, Jordan. It's guys like you.
I didn't know his gear, man. Whatever. Guy didn't know his gear. He had it set up on this like Persian rug in the garage. And anyways,
Classy.
yeah, it was good to go though.
Hey, Jamie, what about, so I went and looked at a guy who was making racks. His dad and brother-in-law have a metal fabricating company and they're creating rogue knockoff products. It seems like there's like a Squat Racks Canada, there's Easy Grill, there's these guys, like, are there 100 of those now? Have you noticed?
Yeah, it's funny. Like sometimes I'll open up my Instagram or something, and it's just ad after ad after ad for, you know, Squat Racks Canada and everybody who's making squat racks out of their little welding shop. You know, opportunity. Everybody's trying to get in on it now.
Because that's a big change, because before they wouldn't do it for you because it wasn't worth it. They just wouldn't make enough. They couldn't compete.
Yeah.
So are you saying now that the prices are so high for a squat rack that these guys can still clear like a 30% profit margin or something?
Yeah, probably. I mean, you look at the materials, and if they're looking at their own labor, they're not hiring people, they're not, you know, they don't have all the different staffing issues and insurance and all of this they're paying for. Sure, why not?
I priced out, there's a company that popped up here, Trav, and I priced out a few attachments for my rack that like is a Rogue rack. And anyways, I think he's called like Rogue Fabrication, which is, but it seems like the prices are basically the same. But anything with a ton of holes or something where like machining would be more beneficial than drill press, for instance, like the price ends up being way more, and they're just, it's the availability. And if they're local is the only way that they're still making a bit of money. And my impression is that it's guys that need work. Like if they're out of work from whatever they're normally doing their metal work for, they'll do it, but they're probably grinding out 16-hour days to make a squat rack to make their 30%, you know?
And warranties, how do the warranties work on these things as far as, or I guess insurance? So if a squat rack collapses in my gym and I bought it from Squat Racks Canada,
Your insurance, bud.
that's on me, right? Well, whereas if it's from Life Fitness, did Life Fitness take on some of that or not? Were we able to deflect to another company? I'm not even sure. I've never known of a case where that went there.
I think if it's manufacturer's defect from a company, like some of the liability does lie on them, right? But I would imagine some of these companies, like if a weld breaks on a J-hook, you're probably on your own, like acutely and at the end. Or what are you going to do? Go after a guy who doesn't have any assets anyways and get nothing, right? Kind of the risk that people probably take. The next thing we're going to slide into, guys, just to be mindful of your guys' time, especially, is when can we all expect to get some cheap gear for our home gyms? Like when is the market going to get flooded with these people that bought all this stuff that didn't have it previously? Like, what are you thinking as far as projections on that? I know it's speculation, but start with you, Andrew. I mean, and I guess actually I'll preface it with this too. Like, how many people that you've had a lot of people probably that have bought from you that are dedicated to working out, dedicated to training in a gym type setting. They plan to keep that up and go from there.
I think you'll be, like, our community is pretty, I would say, strong, like pretty dedicated. Like, for example, you know, like a Good Life and stuff, they would have probably 2% of their members show up. We did a study where actually, I'd say 90% of our members show up more than 2 or 3 times a week. So pretty dedicated group. And so they'll be back, and that's what we're betting on. But I think that people generally hoard things. So I don't think this thing will be, the stuff will come back out in the next year. I think it'll probably be like 2 years where everyone will start dumping in and like, wow, this is taking a lot of my space up. So that's my projection is the year will probably hold out. You know, the vaccinations we're not supposed to be all vaccinated until probably September. So probably a year from that is my guess of when things will start dumping up, or a lot will start dumping up.
Just offer to buy it back from your members. You're probably a better guy than I am, though.
You sound pretty ruthless.
I don't know, man. Get ready for the next pandemic. You never know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Jamie, how about what are your projections on that? And like, are you thinking about? I know it's like very unpredictable, but I'm sure you're a possibilities thinking guy. Are you thinking about engaging in that down the road? Like, will you be buying used equipment off people that want to sell it for your warehouse, etc.?
I mean, yeah, we're never going to say no if somebody wants to trade something in and there's still demand for it. But I agree with Andrew. I don't think people are going to be in any hurry to get rid of their equipment. I see the uncertainty carrying on for at least a few years. And from everybody I've talked to, which most of the people are people that had home gyms and have sold them over the years, maybe in a move, and then they've been going to a facility somewhere to train and are now saying, I was kicking myself. I should have never sold it. I should have just held on to it just in case. And I think we're going to see more of that kind of just in case, I'm keeping it in a corner somewhere mentality.
Yeah. Sam has a follow-up question here. Jump in, Sam.
Well, before I hit the question, so many, like my in-laws, my parents still have their weight equipment from like 50 years ago. Like they didn't get rid of it either. So I would also agree with that. So in terms of the prices, as things start to kind of, settle down over the next year or so, do you think that the shipping companies have got a taste of the fact that they can charge you this much, or do you think that's going to change? Do you think there'll be a big shift, or it'll be a gradual shift, or how long do we expect prices to still be quite high?
It's funny. I was talking to the owner of York Barbells, a good friend, and I was talking to him the other day, and he said he recently refused to take 2 shipments because the shipping costs were too high. And he said I couldn't sell the stuff for that price. So he said, I don't want them, give it to somebody else. And he said, I know somebody else is going to take it. They're going to pay what they want. They're going to take it, but I don't want it at that price. So I think we're going to start to see that type of a plateau with the pricing, and maybe not quite yet, but I mean, I'm already starting to see our overall demand for home equipment start to drop off. For a while, we were getting 400 to 500 emails a day and 100 voicemails a day.
Oh.
And now it's now we're back in the 250 to 300 range a day, emails a day. So it's a little bit more manageable with our team. But yeah, I mean, I think when the demand is off the charts, they can charge what they want, like supply and demand. But once the demand starts to go down, they're going to have to readjust.
You guys need to create an alliance that refuse accepting those shipments across the board. Get the prices down.
You basically just propose like NATO, right? Like this. Sam is a politician now. We should have hooked this up earlier. Jamie could have hired unemployed strength coaches to help them meet the demand during the pandemic. People that were losing their jobs. Man, the phones, right? Like, hey, is Jordan Foley here? Do you need a squat rack? Right?
No way, Jordan.
Yeah. Hey, man, were you a strength coach back in the day? So moving on from here, we'll start out with Jamie, because he was kind of involved in that commercial facility outfitting process before, and then Andrew from the lens of maybe somebody wants to try to do it themselves. So I'm a strength coach. Maybe I work for an institution, a university, a training center, or I want to open a private facility, in 6 to 8 to 12 months, like whenever this is over. And I'm in the beginning stages now of determining what my equipment needs are. And I'm in that 4 to 6 platform space, 3,000 square foot type facility. What are some things that I should be doing now to prepare? And what are some things that I should expect as far as hurdles? Amy, and then Andrew from the side of maybe trying to do it myself from China.
The biggest thing is plan ahead and expect delays, because I'll give you an example. We just redid Lakehead's new rec center from top to bottom, and it's been a couple of months now, and equipment is still trickling in that's been on back order. So the earlier we can get things planned and ordered, the better we're going to be. Like that 8, 10, 12 week lead time isn't always set in stone. At 12 weeks, all your equipment's not going to be there, because there's always going to be some little glitch that comes up somewhere. Somebody runs out of steel, shipping issue, factory gets shut down because they had some cases of COVID go through there. So that's the biggest thing, is plan early these days.
in early and get help. One of the things that I see, especially of people that think they're home gym people, is like they're like, I'm going to design a performance center. They go on and use these like online bullshit gym builders from Rogue or whatever else. That's the only one I'm familiar with. Like, contact the distributor, and like the reason why you use a distributor is because they do the work for you. They how much stuff you need. They help you do the layout, and then you have them working for you. So to come in with the opposite of that, Andrew, maybe come from the angle of, hey, I'm Jordan Foley. I want to open up like a 2,000 square foot facility with 4 racks and platforms. Like, how could I go about doing this myself in 6 to 8 months? And what would the challenges be?
Yeah, I think the like for Afterburn, we're pretty much as you mentioned and observed, we're pretty straight. Like we're pretty more like Rogue type, more CrossFit or even barbell oriented. So the type of equipment that we have in is pretty straightforward. It's just racks, more Rogue type racks, straight weights. Just making sure that the weights are accurate, obviously, but it's pretty no frills. So I think that's maybe a bit of a difference between the type of equipment that Jamie deals in and the type that I deal in, and the type that I would outfit my facility with. So I think it really depends, because if you're looking for that, I think Rogue type racks, and those might be a bit more available because people are stocking those at home. And if you think those are going to be dumped in the market, then you might be able to wait and get the reduced prices. But if you, so I would say that, yeah, you could wait a bit if you're looking to, save a bit of money. And also commercial gyms, I'm sure Jamie's probably buying some from some closed gyms. Maybe, I think maybe that might be something that you deal in, taking in, off lease or equipment. So those are probably coming onto the market as well. So you could probably buy off them. All of my equipment, like the cable machines, which are a bit more complex, those ones I buy used, but they're from U of T, and they still work great as long as you maintain them. So you can kind of wait for those maybe closed gyms to buy from for the more complex equipment. But yeah, I'm not sure if that helps.
Oh, that's great. Thanks. Does anybody have any questions? You can either put it in the chat or raise your hand and I'll call you out. And if it's for both guys in general, cool. If it's for one of them specifically, just let us know. During this time while we wait for questions, is there anything else that you'd like to add, Jamie or Andrew?
No, there's nothing else I can think of offhand, but yeah, if there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Jamie, actually, how big is your, like, Jamie's telling these stories, and anytime I've been to his facility, it's like you go in, it's like a very big showroom, warehousey type, like a nice warehouse up front and then a warehouse in the back. And there's like one person there at a computer, and maybe there's guys in and out like slugging equipment, right? So like I would still classify it as a small to medium sized business in my mind.
Yeah.
How many people did you have working when you're getting like 500 or like 1,000 inquiries a day?
Yeah. Well, I was working around the clock 7 days a week for a while, but we have about 18 people on staff regularly, and then some extra people that come in now and then to help.
Yeah, you're like calling in your like sister-in-law and your cousin. Hey, do you want to work on the weekend? Your brother, like I'm sure you're asking everyone if they want.
It was, yeah, for a while there, it was a little bit crazy. The retail business, again, it's not our traditional business, and it was like starting a new business. We had to create a website that we could sell stuff on, and we've gone through like 3 different generations of that now, and everybody that thinks you're Walmart, they can pick something up. I want to buy a pair of 10-pound dumbbells, use them for 3 weeks, and then bring them back because I don't like them.
Wow.
We have a question here in the chat from Steve. What do you guys think is the future for North American made products? Do you think that that's something that's going to expand? Or are people going to care more about keeping their money once the costs even out with shipping?
I think definitely we were already seeing a ton of that more. We touched on that with, Squat Racks Canada and all the little places that are welding their own equipment now. Until the pricing kind of drops to bring stuff over now from offshore, that I think there's going to be a lot more people turning to North American made solutions. It's just a matter of if we can do it here for the same prices.
Yeah, for sure.
Labor costs and steel costs and et cetera are gonna make it not worthwhile. I mean, really, other than a few big brands, you've got your Atlantis in Canada, again, Dynamic, Legend in the US. There's not a lot of brands that are made solely in North America.
But if it's just a shipping container issue, do you see overseas manufacturers losing market share and then also investing or encouraging whoever is in charge to fix that issue? And then all these American new startups will then implode?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the companies that may be trying to get into business now just to kind of ride this wave would probably be in trouble when the correction comes. But again, the established companies, I think they'll be fine. They've already got their market share, they've got their customer base, and they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, to be a wise industry to get in and get out, right? Probably. If some people will probably lose their shirts because they'll stick around too long and think that people care about them as a supplier.
Mhm.
And the prices even out and the market's flooded and they're like, oh, why can't we sell stuff still? Any closing thoughts from you, Andrew?
I would say it's like Jamie mentioned. I think the labor costs are just, and you touched on it as well, Jordan. Is imagine like that rogue upright and all those holes you have to make. It's very labor intensive, and I would say, like, since I'm importing from China, I would just say that the labor costs are so cheap there, and the raw materials are just so much cheaper that I would say that I'm not sure about the North American manufacturing, but I think just looking at the prices right now, it's pretty cheap from abroad. So, and I think shipping costs is very hard to predict because it's not just about fitness equipment coming on these shipping containers. It's about all the other goods that are coming from China. And I think just based on how much stuff is coming from China, like the shipping costs will be still pretty high, but I still think that the prices will be pretty, like I think it'll probably come down once shipping increases, because I don't think stuff coming from China is going to change too much. I think it'll continue to be high. So. Yeah.
Jordan, if I could hop in here before we go, I don't think Jamie or Andrew can answer this question. Has anybody tried to buy flooring? Like, I know stall mats have gone from $40 to $100.
I did, and I had no luck.
You had no luck, eh?
Yeah.
Anybody else? Flooring? Anyone? Find any deals? Has it gone through the roof? Like Mondo, has that gone up as well? I don't know, Jamie, do you know, has turf gone up?
I can imagine that would be a transport issue.
Turf, sorry, Jordan. Turf we don't deal in, but rubber flooring we do on a regular basis. I've got, a couple skids of, as you call them, stall mats, but we use a grade A water jet cut material. So we've got a couple skids of them coming in next week. We have a good stock on our premium flooring, which is a Dynaflex virgin rubber interlocking flooring. Again, small increases just mostly due to shipping, but we haven't seen any big increases there with production.
I would say the big competition there would be just for shipping space. That stuff takes up so much space, and they're so heavy. It's if the market's not there, then why would you be shipping and selling that? Sam said she had a question to close it out.
So maybe an opportunity for you guys to plug yourself, but in terms of what you have available now, this recording will be posted tomorrow for anyone to see. And you mentioned, Jamie, you have thousands of pounds of dumbbells kind of coming in, but if someone needed something, ASAP, what could they get from your place now?
How do they get it?
Yeah. So the container coming in, I know it's not all sizes of dumbbells, but we have a selection of PVC hex, commercial hex coming in. A lot of different Olympic bars, bumper plates, good selection of bumper plates, some Olympic sets. So a lot of that type of thing. And then of course we've got actually just got in a good selection of racks, benches. Our stock's not too bad right now. So I would say for anybody, just
someone in the chat's been asking for small kettlebells. What about that?
Yep, we have kettlebells. Yeah, we do have kettlebells are getting low, but we do have, I think, starting at 10-pound kettlebells and going up to 80s.
What about you, Andrew?
For us, we have nothing right now. So we have, I think the only thing we have are really nice jerk blocks. If you are looking for jerk blocks, we have some really nice ones, but that's absolutely all we have. Next one that we have coming in is March and April are the ones that we have lined up. And those ones have pretty much everything. For us, we sell like pretty basic products, so just cast irons, bumpers, 2 types of racks, a bar, and bench and adjustable dumbbells, and that's pretty much our product line. So, and there's only one choice for each. So,
And Drew,
pretty straight
how quickly can you drop a PDF of that catalog that you have into the chat?
For sure, yeah, I can drop that in there. And again, our prices are really cheap because you do have to wait, and once it comes in, it's gone, as Jamie mentioned, in a week. So it's all pretty much accounted for once it hits our door.
Funny story. So Andrew, I saw his ad and I shopped, and he wants a ETF deposit. And I don't know who Andrew is, and I don't know who Afterburn is. And so I sent him an email saying, well, I want to order this much, and I'm really adverse to giving you cash because I don't know who you are, and I'm not sure if you're a scammer. So either come back and give me a solution to that or convince me that you're not a scammer. And he did, actually. He did a good job. He came back and said he was really upfront with everything. And so he got his cash deposit for me.
He should have just said it's you or someone else, man. I can sell this. Don't worry about it. Leave me alone.
Shut up. Who the hell are you? Shut up.
Well, we'll let these guys go. Thanks so much for coming on here and discussing this with us, guys. Obviously, it's like such a very unique situation. Who knows how much this is going to happen again in our lifetime, for sure. I think I got the website right, Jamie. You're dotmarfitness.com.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So that's where you can get Jamie. And then Andrew's posted a link here to his gym's website, but then also the actual direct URL to where you can go. I went there last week at some point and he kind of outlines the process. He actually talks about how there may be delays. He's very honest. There's dated updates and there's a calendar there with the products that he has available. So he's actually dropped the calendar right in there. So thanks for that, guys. And like, thanks so much for being upfront and honest from 2 people that we respect that are actually in the industry for the super long haul, like Jamie actually directly selling equipment, and Andrew, who's been around for a bit but entered so that he could find a way to support his community first and then the greater community second. Obviously, that's what we're all trying to do in our little ways as well throughout all of this, whether it be in fitness, health. Thanks very much, and we'll end it there for today.
Thanks, guys.
Folks. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much, guys.